Hey everybody, this is Ed. Welcome to a late night edition of Change Chat on this Friday, 11/21, so November 21st. I just wanted to jump on real quick, see how everybody's doing, see if you have any things on your mind. Been a busy day at work, so had a lot going on, and just thought I'd take a few minutes to say hello and just have a conversation. A lot of things going on in the ink world. A lot of videos have dropped here recently. You've got Black Friday sales starting early. A lot of different things happening. So just wanted to say hello and just kind of see if you had any questions, any things you're thinking about as far as are there any tablets you have your eyes on from an e-ink perspective, any tech purchases that you're planning on revisiting since it's a holiday season? Anything that you're planning on maybe jumping into the deep end of the pool on e-ink or any other device, really? Hey, Aaron, my friend, good to see you. Happy Friday. I was just telling everybody I have had a real busy week at work this week. So good to kind of detox here a little bit and say hello, jump on a quick stream, and just see what everybody's up to. No, it's a Friday night. I'm an old man, so I'm not exactly out there partying or anything. Oh, you bought the reTerminal color yesterday. Awesome, Aaron. That's awesome. I love that device. Matter of fact, here's mine right here. Hold it up to the camera here, and this is Prague. So that's a clock from the 1300s, and that's the St. Charles Bridge. So I've got those side by side. I've got this in the gallery view, so you can have a gallery on there. And of course, the closer you are, the more you'll see the pixels. But if you're standard distance away, it looks really good. I mean, it really does. I leave it here on my desk. I'm eventually going to hang these up, I think, on the walls somewhere because here's the black and white one. And I had to generate me a New York City skyline. I had the AI do that one. And I keep them on the desk for now, but I'll probably get those hung up at some point. The nice thing about the reterminals is they have the humidity and temperature sensors in them. I just have to figure out how to get them to show Fahrenheit instead of Celsius. So, yeah, Aaron, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about the reterminal when you get it. And you'll have to let me know. I'm still on the fence right now, and I am going to do a review or an update on their newest version of their software because they have a software that you can use with it and it's pretty cool. It's not quite as customizable as what you get with Terminal, and you can flash Terminal on these devices and use them as kind of a sturdier metal build of a terminal device. But what I like about them is you can do that, or you can use their software and you can generate AI images, you can add your own photos. Once you put an SD card in there, you can kind of add a different playlist now, which is a new feature that they added with the update to their software package. And they've asked me if I would do an update video, and I just haven't had time yet. But I told them when I got around to it, I would do that with this new software experience because it is way better. Used to be you had to choose to either have the photo library, or you had to choose to have kind of the palette where you could do different things, temperature, RSS feeds, all of that. And you couldn't mix and match. You really couldn't do a playlist. And now you can kind of do that. So it's pretty cool. Well, what else do you have your eye on, Aaron? I know that you've been talking quite a bit on your live stream, which is fabulous, by the way. I really enjoy the back and forth with you and your wife. And I think that you've been talking a lot about the new Kindles that are coming out, and they look pretty cool. I mean, of course, they're pricey, which the original Kindle Scribe wasn't. And I think that was kind of one of the draws was that it was very reasonably priced for the market. One of the most budget-friendly deals out there, really, in a lot of ways. And it came with the Kindle ecosystem. So really interested to hear when you get that device. Also interested when you get the reTerminal, and would like to hear. I heard on your live stream that you were going to take and drive the MobiScribe Wave a little bit and see what you thought of it. And I'd be curious if you did that and what your thoughts were on that device. I know that you mentioned me a couple times on this device here and kind of the build quality and different things. And for the price that this currently is, I think it's an excellent value for money. I mean, it's well worth the $100 price tag you get. I wouldn't agree with you that it's on par with the Supernote calendar because you can't link your calendar. Other than that, I think it has some really cool features that are very similar to the WeWoods and how that works. But each to their own. I think that Supernote has some things they could do better. Um, we'll have to see what happens with that as they go. But if you're just trying to get into an entry level tablet and you want something portable with a decent screen, a decent form factor, and very durable, to me, this almost has. I mean, the Nomad's going to have a more premium feel to it because it's a different type of plastic, but I actually really enjoy this almost rubberized plastic on the MobiScribe Wave, and this is waterproof. So that's a huge plus for that device, especially at that $100 price point. And let's see, Aaron says they put a lot into the new software, so that's probably why the price jumped. Yeah, and for the new scribe, and I would agree, Aaron, but I also know that Amazon could subsidize it, and that's kind of where I think they did on the original scribe. You have your loss leader, you have your devices that you throw out there that are still good quality, but you don't charge that ultra premium for them. But we'll see. I mean, it may be worth every penny too. I don't know yet. It'll all depend on what the actual functionality is. I know that they've had one of the best color screens according to pretty much every review I've seen. And I think that's pretty cool. And Aaron says, I was using the MobiScribe earlier this year. It's a good device, just a little slow. Yeah, it's slow. I would agree. I use it mostly as an e-reader if I'm going to use it. And of course, that's kind of taken a little bit of the back burner because I actually like to read on the larger screens too. But if I'm going to read on a device in bed, this is a really good option because I can hold it in my hand. It's light. I don't have to worry about dropping it, having it fall and hit me in the head, like David at Tablet Tech talks about. And also, it's got these wide bezels. And for writing, that's not the best thing in the world to have these huge bezels. But for reading, it's very nice. And it's got a nice chin on it as well. And it's pretty much whatever you put it into, whatever orientation, it's going to work pretty well. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, for $100, you can't beat it. There's no e-reader out there that beats it at $100. And quite frankly, $100, if note taking isn't your primary thing, eh, this is a no-brainer. If you take notes, but it's not your primary thing, it's just something you want to have the ability to do. Entry level $100, this beats pretty much anything in the market, with the caveat that they're slowly phasing out. They did release an update just fairly recently, which was a surprise to me because they haven't updated since last year. But recently they did like a small security update and bug fix update. No new functionalities, nothing like that. But just the fact that they're maintaining the software a little bit might give me a little bit of hope that you'll still be able to use it a little bit longer. Yeah, and you're right, Aaron. The Scribe is a total hardware redesign. And I think, again, it depends. If you're Amazon, you could have afforded to keep it at that same price point and go on volume. And that's always the trade-off, right? The trade-off is you can use the volume model, which I think Amazon could really lean into and clean up, because if you do high volume at lower margin, you're going to make more money. I mean, go back to the Sam Walton days, go back to a lot of your retail mechanics, and it's always, if I can sell twice as many and only make 3/4 of the margin, I'm going to make more money. And so that's the way you do that. And that's the way. And you take losses on specific things, knowing you're going to make that margin up somewhere else. And I think they're doing a little bit of, you know, trying to test that market, I think, and seeing if the market's there. If the market's there and you can sell high with a high margin and volume, of course, it's a win-win for you as a company. I just don't know if it's there because of the fact that what they're bringing to the table, other than possibly the best color experience, isn't going to make them compete directly with the Bookses of the world, because you're still locked into an ecosystem. And even Supernote allows some side loading. So it makes it very difficult to say that Kindle is going to be that perfect device unless you're in the Kindle ecosystem. Then, hands down, it's probably going to be the best device for you. That would be my argument. If someone came to me, I loved the exercise you did the other night with Dominique on like determining her use case in real time, because it was so funny, because you approached it very much. I'm an educator, so very much it's clarifying questions. How do you do this? What's your use case for this? What do you need? What are the things you're actually doing? And the way you walked her through that was a master class in showing how you get her to what her device might be. And, process of elimination. You need a front light. Well, Supernote's out. Done. If you need a front light, that device is gone. That also gets rid of the Note Max, also gets rid of the Go 10.3. And then when you start talking about an ecosystem and you need things that link and you need things that you can have cross-platform, that gets out and takes out the WeWoods and the WeWoods Paper Mini, both of those devices, because there is no ecosystem. There's no way to sync across those devices. And I think that the way you were walking her through that thought process was excellent, absolutely excellent. And then Aaron also says, also, the writing is not that bad on the Moby Scribe. Kind of, yeah, the writing really isn't. I mean, their stylus is awful. I don't enjoy their stylus at all, but I use the Norris Digital Jumbo on it and really like that writing experience. And with the book stylus, it works really well as also. I mean, it's really good. Black and white, none front like Kindle Scribe might be the budget friendly option. Yeah, it could be. I think you're right about that. And I'm curious to see what they do there. Do they make it like the Paperwhite, where you get that really crisp white screen on a writing tablet? It might give a lot of these devices a run for their money. Again, the biggest drawback whenever you're talking about Kindle is going to be that you're stuck in Kindle. But that's just me. Having some of my Fanta Orange Zero soda. I love Fanta Orange. I don't know if any of you all had that when you were a kid, but it's one of my favorite things. I just wrapped up the first part of a huge project at work today, and I'm mentally exhausted in a lot of ways. But, I just wanted to get on and say hello to everybody and kind of test the waters. I am curious, Aaron, if you have your Note Max, if you've done the beta update, because David at Tablet Tech and I were going back and forth in the Discord, and I know you jumped into that conversation for a hot minute, but the ghosting is atrocious all of a sudden with this new 4.11 beta on the Note Max. So much so that I immediately reached out to Books, and they've been kind of silent in their tech support lately, reached out to them and said, hey, what is going on with this? Because it's ghosting over ghosting over ghosting. I mean, I'm just switching pages in notes and I'm seeing the remnant of every single page before, no matter what mode I'm in. And it's even worse in the HD mode. It's just gotten way, way worse with this update. So I don't know what they're doing. And again, it's a beta update. So I know they're testing and working things out. So I never hold them to that's what it's going to be. But it's a pretty huge miss when that's one of the major complaints that everybody's had. You would think that would be a priority in these beta updates to try to solve that or to try to tweak it. Let's see. Aaron says, yeah, they need to really fix the app. It's kind of hard to get things on and off of the Scribe. Yeah. That the Scribe ecosystem or the Kindle ecosystem and having to email things and have it processed through that Send a Kindle really, and Voya did a very good video on this early on about his My Deep Guide templates, his MDO and all of that, and how it converted it. So it ended up breaking things because you can either pull the PDF in and it works, but then there was some kind of formatting issue to where the links work, but the notes don't work correctly, or the annotations. There was some weird thing about it. And then but if you do send to Kindle, the links were breaking because it was changing the format somewhat. So there was some kind of weirdness about that. And I can't remember all of that. I just remember him going through that process. Aaron says, so I didn't buy the Note Max, borrowed it to test to see if I wanted to purchase, and I just didn't have the need for it. Yeah, and I think it's weird for me because if I had that size of a Supernote, I think that no brainer, I'd probably use that 90% of the time. But I have so much trouble with the Note Max other than for those grading of papers in that large format. But if I'm note taking, the palm rejection is so bad and the ghosting issue is getting progressively worse. But when that screen is refreshed, when it's clean, it is so bright and vivid. And there's so much real estate there. And yeah, I can turn off all of my gestures on books, but then I find I'm frustrated because I want to be able to use my gestures because I like the gesture driven ecosystem. I like my toolbars minimized, and I like to be able to just use gestures to get around. And with Supernote, that's really easy because the gestures, at least for me, work 90+% of the time. And I never have a problem. With books, that's not quite the case because it's always seeming to recognize my palm because of where I'm at on the screen, and it's just causing me issues. So I don't know what that's about. Aaron says the size is nice, but it really was the same as the 10.3, at least to me. Yeah, and I can see that, Aaron. I really can. I think a lot of it has to do with what you're using it for. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, if I had to go down to one device, it'd be the Manta, hands down, because I can do everything. I mean, yes, our PDFs a little bit cramped. Yes, they are, but I can turn them into landscape, and the Supernote handles that very well by splitting out the view. And then I can write in those margins and it just works. I mean, and when I go and look at that on a bigger screen, all of my notes are there, all of my highlights are there, all of my embedded comments are there. I can use the digest feature. All of that stuff is just amazing. So if I had to go to one device, it would be that one. Absolutely, hands down. Let's see. Aaron says, see, I don't use gestures, so I keep them off and only use the bottom toolbar. Yeah. And I think that's a big thing. And then you said the 10.3 misses the first stroke of the pen quite often. Never happens on the Note Max. That's good to know. I wonder why that is, because I hadn't heard of those types of performance issues on the 10.3. The Supernote doesn't miss strokes hardly ever anymore. It did have that issue when it came out of the no load shutdown, but it's gotten much better to where it very rarely misses a stroke. And that's really good. And now that you can custom calibrate that pen, it works really well. I haven't been able to finish Kit's live stream, but heard him talking about the AI Note 2 and also watched Jeff Moss's first video on the AI Note 2. And in some ways, kind of a disappointing device to me because they're wanting to only get sponsored reviews. And I get it. That's what they're trying to push. And there's nothing against a sponsored review, but I would hope they'd want to get this into the hands of some people that don't have any, dog in that hunt, as we say in the Midwest and the South. And then let's see here. Aaron says, my next tablet I'm buying will be the Remarkable Paper Pro. That is hilarious to me, buddy. It just is. I mean, I'm so glad that you have found something you really enjoy. But I'm just kind of shocked that you've gone from books and you need something that has all of these features and tools to saying, you know what, I'm going all minimal. I'm going to the most minimal tablet out there on the market. And I get your reasoning, and I think it's honest, and that's why I enjoy your channel and your content so much. When it comes to use case, it's all about that authenticity. It's all about what you are using it for and why, and what makes you the most productive. Because all these things can be used as productivity tools, they can be used as focus tools, they can be used as all these different things, but only if you're willing to make it work for you and in your system. And then Aaron said, did Jeff or did he do a no, he bought it. Jeff bought it. I think he backed their Kickstarter campaign actually. And he just now got his, and he did the review, or he did an unboxing and first impressions, and doesn't think he's going to do the visual tour because he said that the software is pretty much the same as it was on the AI Note 2 Air, which was their smaller device. We'll see what he ends up with, but I dropped a comment to him and I'm like, I'm just not super impressed with it. Build quality wise, it looks great, but I don't know if they're finished. I don't know if their software is ready for prime time yet. Reminds me a lot of, and I know we don't agree on this, but reminds me a lot of WeWoods and how I don't feel their software is ready for prime time either. But again, that's each to their own on that. The books will still be my daily for work. Remarkable will be for my writing. I just feel like device when I'm just writing. I like the feel of the device when I'm just writing. Yeah. And I finally get it. And this is why I said that I thought that Dominique might end up with a Supernote. She likes to write on a bed of paper, and you like to write on a hard table with a sheet of paper. That explains so much on why you weren't a huge fan of Supernote. If you like that tablet, like paper tablet, like walking around with a legal pad feel, the Supernote's phenomenal. There's nothing else that feels quite that way to me. And you're going to love that device. It's going to be the device for you. If you like that harder pencil on paper on a table feel, I've heard the Remarkable is that device, and that there's nothing better at mimicking that than the Remarkable. And I think that right there is going to help you tailor that experience. I don't like that, you're having to worry so much about storage space. And that's why I was joking with you that you were going to end up getting a Manta and putting a 1 terabyte SD card in there, because then you could do links and everything else that you want to do. And whenever you were ready to quote unquote offload that, you could offload it to the SD card. And now with their new features, it maintains the links. So you could still navigate to that same note as an archive. You can't create a link back to, well, actually you could. You could create a link back then to a note in the main drive. You just can't create something to the SD card yet. But just being able to archive that and you go into that note from wherever you're at is pretty cool. I mean, and be able to have all of that functionality, and how they're updating that, I don't know. But they're building that architecture out, and they're really moving ahead with the way they're thinking about reimagining all of their software components, their central components, which is cool. The digest first iteration of the reimagining of that is phenomenal. I think their calendar is going to be crazy when it comes out, I hope, because if they get that, and if they get that to where the calendar is syncing with their desktop app and they tweak just a few things, and I'm still working on my wish list. That will come out this weekend at some point. It's a long article. I'll just warn everybody now. But, where I'm talking about what the small and semi small things they can do as a platform to really make them what I would consider the best in class that no one else could touch. Let's see here. Storage thing is mostly my fault. I have a lot I need to offload. I have a lot of work stuff and I'm done with, and I can store off tablet. Yeah, but I mean, again, it depends. If you're using a lot of schematics, that makes a lot of sense. If you're using a lot of large PDFs, but it wouldn't be bad to have them on device either if you could. If you wanted to leave them on there for reference for some reason or another, to be able to pull them up, having them on that SD card in an archive that you could pull and maybe even move back into main storage if you wanted to revisit a project, it really does make the Supernote that second brain compatible system. And I think at some point, I mean, I love Obsidian and I don't think I'll ever leave Obsidian. And as I talked earlier, even for this project at work, e-ink wasn't going to be something. It helps me with early conceptual stuff. It helps me with note taking. It helps me with a lot of things. But this was, 100-page document with 100 comments in Google Docs and a bunch of moving parts and pieces and separate systems and copying and pasting between systems. I wasn't going to be able to do that on e-ink. I wasn't going to be able to do any of that on e-ink. I needed 3 screens. I needed all of this real estate. I needed to have multiple windows, multiple tabs, and that helped me be as productive as I could be to do that task. And again, it's always with me, intentional technology. I probably should have named this channel that, or maybe at some point I'll start a second channel if I ever get huge, which I don't foresee. But if I ever get big enough, I'll start a second channel called Intentional Technology or something. But yeah, I mean, for me, I am really trying to be specific to what I'm doing and true to what I'm doing. I'm not going to use or try to shoehorn uh, a process into the device. The process should drive what device I use. I shouldn't be trying to have the device define the process. And I think that's where a lot of people um, can get caught up. They think that, oh, well, I want the all-in-one. I want something that does everything. That doesn't exist. It's a unicorn. It's not, I don't think you're ever going to see it in our lifetime, or at least in my lifetime. Several of you are much younger than me out there. I think that's the difference. If you are going in with intention and you know that there's a certain point in time, and Aaron, you talk about doing this a lot, there's a certain point in time when you jump off of the e-ink tablet, when you jump off into a different device. I do it with my computer and my multiple screens and Obsidian. I know when to pivot. I know when to go from writing it down and doing other things, and then to when I need a keyboard or when I need something with a large screen to be able to see, or I'm going to have to type. So that to me is the defining characteristic of why e-ink is valuable, because there are certain things I can do with it and on it that are phenomenal, and I'm my most productive self. But then there are other things that it just can't do and can't do well enough and creates so much friction that I can't use it. So why would I go through that process? Now, I may try it once to see if it can do that. And if it can, then yeah, I'm going to use it. But if it can't, there's no reason for me to do that. A good example is, sometimes in my job, I do classroom observations in college classrooms. And during that whole time, I'm looking at the interactions between the students and the faculty member and the content and side conversations, how well it's going, how much engagement's there, all of these observational things. And if I have my computer up and in my way, I'm not going to be able to focus on what I'm supposed to be looking for. That's when my Supernote and e-ink is extremely handy, because my eyes can be up and focused on what I'm watching and listening to, and I'm taking notes on the tablet furiously. And by the time that hour and a half, hour, 50 minutes, whatever it is over, I've got 7 to 10, maybe even 12 pages of notes on the Manta or on a device that I can then go back, convert to text off the Manta, which is really good, and then turn that into an observation report. And these are things that we do for faculty that are just between us and the faculty member. So nobody else ever sees it. It's just a way for us to help them to develop their own skills, and they request us to come in. So we never do it without being asked to do so. But to me, that's where e-ink and that sort of note-taking functionality really shines. Then say I want to take that off and write the report, I can do that a lot of different ways. I can take it and put it into Word. I can take it and dump it into Obsidian and start making connections and maybe pull in some resources. Or I can maybe do a combo where I pull it into Word first and then do Obsidian. Aaron says, my biggest uses on e-ink is planning and brainstorming, and for my writing the first draft. After that, I moved to my computer. Yeah, I'm very much the same on that. Let's see here. Hi, Ed in media, just got a big cup of coffee. All right. I'm all about coffee. I'm right now though, I'm not on caffeine at the moment. I'm having my Fanta Orange Zero because I love Fanta, and we found some that had the zero sugar, which is much better for me. But yeah, I mean, Aaron, my thought process is very much the same. Now, I do some long form writing and stuff on the Supernote, and I think if they come out with the keyboard case, or especially now that I have the QWERKYWRITER, I may think more about working in Word on the Supernote, or at least because you can actually take and export your notes through the text recognition notes to Word, and maybe doing some typing cleanup just on device and then opening that Word document, because again, through the app, I can open Word documents natively. And that's going to be really, really cool because they're the only device that allows you to start and edit Word documents directly on device without the Word app. Now, you don't get all of the same functionality, but you do get keyboard shortcuts, so you can bold, italicize, underline, a lot of different things. And you can handwrite on Word documents with handwriting shortcuts to do strike through and a bunch of other stuff. I really like the Remarkable app or desktop app. You can do a lot with it. Yeah, Aaron, absolutely. I've seen nothing but good, positive things out of that. Again, if you're comfortable with the limited proprietary nature of Remarkable. But getting documents on the device that way, and the way you can edit notes natively between all the apps, and I think Supernote's headed that direction. They're already allowing that with the digest, with the typing experience, that you can edit on the device, on your computer, and on the phone app. But I don't know if they're there yet with notes. But since they've added the text feature within Notes, I think you may see them move to where you can now author that way. And if they get their app on parity with Remarkable, quite frankly, they don't charge for their app. And I think that for me, not for you, because you like the writing experience so well on the Remarkable, but for me, the Supernote might be the hands down best device out there if their app comes on parity with Remarkables, because the Books app is good. It's not great. You taught me some things about how to be able to sync different things, but even then I've had trouble getting the device to automatically pull down the source document. I know you can do it. You have to tell it. And once you tell it, it'll do it. But you have to do that, I think, on every one of them. It automatically syncs the annotations and bookmarks. But I think then once you tell it, whenever one's updated, to update and download, it will. But you have to give it that permission. And I think that's by file. I still have to do some more testing on that. And Aaron says, Remarkable added some native functionality with Word. I haven't tried it yet. Yeah, they do something with it, but I don't know if it's exactly the same, because the text note on Books and on Remarkable is not a Word document. Supernote doesn't have a text note. They have a document, which is a Word file. So that's where that's a little bit different. Alex says the new AI Note 2 looks very slick, but a little too pricey. Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit earlier, Alex. I don't know if it looks slick or not to me. I mean, it looks like a decent piece of hardware. I just don't know that their software is going to offer enough value to add that premium. And I just don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I do like that they have a Mobius screen. I think that's pretty cool, but it's extremely expensive for what it is. I dropped in Jeff Moss's comments that when you can buy the Note Max for $1 more, it just doesn't seem to me like the best value proposition. But again, I haven't seen all the reviews because, Jeff just finally got his. Graphics Tech did one, and it didn't say sponsored, so I think he purchased his, or maybe he got them to send him one without any strings attached. I know they've refused to do that for me. Kit mentioned that on his live stream. They keep approaching him. They've approached me multiple times. And it's always, well, if you'll say what we want you to say, you can review it. And no, I'm not going to do that. I don't do that with any company. And Aaron says the Books app is good, but could be improved. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not bad. I mean, it's not, to me, the worst app out there is the WeWoods app, because it's not an app. It's a web interface that allows you to get documents on and off the device. That's really what it is. It's not, it doesn't stay on the web app. It doesn't sync with the device. It just is a transfer portal. And for that, it does a decent job, and it works, but that's just not an app. That's not an app experience. That's not cloud. That's not anything that we're used to seeing on these other platforms. And I think with the AI note, that's another thing, is for their cloud platform, you have to sign up for a subscription, is what I saw on Jeff's video. So I'm not sure whether that'll be worth that or not. Aaron says, I do like the fact that the Play Store, I can use Word on books, which syncs with Office 365 like any other computer. Yeah, I mean, I do too. The Word app's still not great. I noticed that when I was writing my Random Thoughts newsletter for Patreon, because I didn't realize you couldn't do heading styles or anything on the app. You can do bold, all the other stuff, but you can't actually change your heading style. You have to do that in Word on a computer. And then you, of course, can edit and do anything else, but you can't change those heading styles. And that was a miss for me. So in that case, I can type in Word on Supernote, and the way my Supernote works, like if you sync that to OneDrive, it would automatically go. Or if you had the Supernote partner app and you sync that in the cloud, when you download that to your native device, it works. But well, anyway, everybody, I'm going to have to hop off of here. Thank you all so much for the conversation. Thanks for being here. We'll end on that note, Aaron, that the WeWoods app is trash. But thanks for all of you for being here on a Friday night. Until next time, keep moving forward. I will talk to you soon. Have a great weekend and a happy Thanksgiving if I don't see you before then. Bye now.